Today is Saturday, January 7th, and this morning, or from the entire morning, we have Zazen Kai here at Endless Path Zendo. This morning, I would like to look at a koan, but in terms of our practice here at Endless Path, and it's about putting on the robe, whatever that might mean. A few years back, Joyce Landau, already a longtime Zen student, became one of the first members of Endless Path Zendo, and then after that also became the first Endless Path Zendo member to personalize the 16 Bodhisattva precepts in an individual Jukai ceremony. With the Sangha and her son as witnesses, in that ceremony she received a rakusu from me, as well as a new Dharma name. Several Endless Path Zendo students are currently preparing their own personalized responses for the precepts, which we as a group recently took on our annual New Year's Eve Jukai. This March, we will have our second such individual Jukai, and hopefully, not long after that, our third. I hope that others will, in time, join in this process. Of course, this is a personal decision. One issue that can arise, and it's a kind of classic or archetypal issue, if you will, is that people can get hung up on not wanting to identify as a Buddhist, which is what such a ceremony in which one receives a miniaturized Buddhist robe or rakusu essentially means. So a word on that. The reason I call it archetypal is that it essentially is an attempt to escape form. I don't want to limit myself. Emptiness is vast, profound, universal. Once you limit yourself to this and that and its specifics, you're bound by it. Religion itself can cause so much harm. Once I'm a this, it excludes everyone and everything that's a that. I don't want to live inside such a box. But of course, the essence of realization, of intimacy, is that form is only emptiness. Emptiness only form. Form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness no other than form. To attempt to live outside that, out in the universal, out in emptiness, is rather self-defeating. For it is to identify with form nonetheless. Being a non-Buddhist is as much an identity as any other, and can be as fiercely clung to as any other. Life has many such ironically humorous sticking places. In any case, someone who'd struggled with this for some years and then came to our recent Jukai told me how freeing and right it felt, which was very encouraging to hear. The rakusu, which students receive in the personal Jukai ceremony, is the bib-like abbreviation of the full kesa, or robe, worn by ordained Zen monks and priests. Its design is said to go back to the Buddha himself. Supposedly, he was standing on a hillside looking out over the rice fields, and the rectangular patterns he saw there are immortalized in the rectangular patchwork of the rakusu. It presents non-duality. That patchwork that he saw was neither inner nor outer, nor in between. The wooden, or often these days plastic ring, which joins the left side straps of the rakusu, forms a Zen circle. It's a symbol of unity and oneness. A circle is whole and complete. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing taken away. So it presents our original nature, that nature which through practice we can each awake to. The rakusu, while worn by Zen monks and priests, is also worn by laypersons who have taken vows. To receive a rakusu here at Endless Path Zendo, we combine our official Kaplo lineage with our Aiken, or Diamond Sangha training, and so reflect the double strand of our Dharma DNA. The process is that of Jukai, and here's how it works. From the perspective of our Kaplo lineage, anyone who wishes can participate in Jukai and take or receive the precepts. That was how Roshi Kaplo did Jukai, and it is so valuable and encouraging that I happily retain it here. Why shouldn't everyone take the precepts and vow to uphold them? It makes perfect sense. So at our New Year's Eve Sangha Wide Jukai, we take the 16 Bodhisattva precepts, accepting them into our lives and hearts as ultimate guides for our actual living. This annual renewal of vows strengthens our practice as well as deepening our fundamental commitment to mature as human beings. But it misses something personal and intimate. Hold on one sec, just want to make a note. Okay. It misses something personal and intimate. It's a group experience. Now, of course, we each take away from it something deeply our own, something real and life-affirming. Still, there is another way. And Aitken Roshi, who I personally worked with for about 4 years after Roshi Kaplo was retiring, and whose Diamond Sangha training I committed to, both with him and then with Danon Henry Roshi, offered Jukai differently. There was no group Jukai at all. Instead, there was only personal and individual Jukai held at the end of a sesshin for someone who had worked with Aitken Roshi to personalize the precepts, which meant you had to be ready and willing to make a deeply personal commitment and do it publicly in order to wear a rakusu. It was a real commitment. It meant something and was not for show. Given my Diamond Sangha background here at Endless Paths, we now, or always have, offered Jukai, in which a solo participant who has personalized the 16 Bodhisattva precepts receives a rakusu inscribed with the Dharma name I select for them. This ceremony comes after some months of individual work specifically personalizing each of the vows. Sangha, family, and friends then attend the ceremony as witnesses. Their vow, this person's vow or that person's vow, to make ongoing practice realization the foundation of their life, then becomes personal and intimate. We all benefit. How could we not? Rivers, mountains, trees, animals, people, all benefit when Zen is no longer confined to a Zendo or a Doksan room. Stating our intention publicly, we show that we mean what we say. There is a koan that resonates with all this. It's case number 16 of the Wumon koan. Japanese would be Mumon kan, English is gateless barrier, and that is Yunmen, the sound of the bell, and the 7-piece robe. Here's the case. Yunmen, in Japanese it would be Unmon, said, "Look, the world is vast and wide. Why do you put on your 7-piece robe at the sound of the bell?" That's the entire case. Wumen's commentary. All you Zen students training in the way, it is urgent that you avoid pursuing sounds and clinging to forms. You may realize the way on hearing a sound, or understand the mind on seeing a form. That's natural. But don't you know that true Zen students can ride sounds and enclose forms? They see everything clearly, moment by moment, and handle each and everything deftly, action after action. But even so, tell me, does the sound come to the ear, or does the ear go to the sound? Even if sound and silence are both forgotten, what do you say at such a point? If you listen with your ear, you cannot realize it. If you hear with your eye, you are intimate at last. Wumen's verse. With realization, all things are one family. Without realization, all things are separate and different. Without realization, all things are one family. With realization, all things are separate and different. So the world is vast and wide. What is Wumen getting at? Is he saying you can get a ticket and travel all over the globe? Is he talking about tourism? As you're free to go anywhere you like, why sit in a Zendo wearing robes? In short, man, the world is vast and wide. What are you doing just sitting here? Is that his meaning? Remember, though, that this is Wumen. To get to the essence of this koan, we have to be clear right here at the start, or the case falls into the literal, and far from traveling, goes nowhere. Next, how does this relate to hearing a bell announcing time for zazen, and then putting on our dark unpatterned clothes or robe or rakusu? Why, if the world is truly vast and wide, limit ourselves in such a way? Do we do it because we have faith in the Buddha's words, that all beings are from the first fully endowed with wisdom and virtue, are indeed Buddhas, as the Buddha himself spontaneously exclaimed in wonder upon his great enlightenment? If so, while faith is deeply important to Zen practice, faith that the Buddha wasn't a fool or a liar, and ultimately faith in our own selfless, not self-centered, not caught up in our endless litany of self-oriented concerns, self. Is this what Wumen intends? Actually, Wumen's compelling why is a robe that covers everything. It is made of 10,000 pieces, not just 7. And yet, there is virtue in the literal rakusu, in the 7-piece robe of Zen Buddhist tradition, which makes both this why and vast and wide truly possible. What is its essence? Here is Zen Master Dogen in the Shobogenzo, Eye of the Treasury of the True Dharma, on the power of the robe. To be born to the abundance of this Dharma and to wear a kasha or kashaya robe even once and maintain it for a moment is no other than wearing an amulet that assures the attainment of unsurpassable enlightenment. Moment by moment, a thought appears and disappears without abiding. Moment by moment, a body appears and disappears without abiding. Yet the power of practice always matures. A kashaya, that is a robe, Buddhist robe, kashaya, is neither made nor not made, neither abiding nor not abiding. It is the ultimate realm of the Buddha and Buddha. A practitioner who receives it unfailingly attains and experiences its power. Those who have not received a kashaya, that is again a Buddhist robe, or rakusu, should wish for one. Try to sow a seed of a kashaya immediately in this lifetime. You should know that a kashaya is what all Buddhas respect and take refuge in. It is the Buddha body, the Buddha mind. It is called the clothing of emancipation, the robe of a field of benediction, the robe beyond form, the unsurpassable robe, the robe of patience, the Tathagata's robe, the robe of great love and great compassion, the robe as a victorious banner, and the robe of unsurpassable complete enlightenment. Receive it with the utmost respect. A mere criminal dies in vain and enters hell. The criminal comes out of hell and again becomes a criminal. As Utpalavarna, this was a nun at the time of the Buddha, had a causal connection with the precepts, even though she broke a precept and actually was in hells, she was able to attain the way. So here's this backstory. She was a realized nun at the time of the Buddha who in a past life was a courtesan who, as a joke, to entertain her clients, put on a Buddhist robe, or a rakusu, in other words. As a result, then this is back to Dogen, as a result of putting on a rakusu or Buddhist robe or kashaya for a joke, she could attain the way. How much more likely you are to attain the way if you arouse a pure heart of trust and put on a kashaya, rakusu, or robe for the sake of unsurpassable enlightenment. Having received a human body, you have a chance to meet Shakyamuni Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha's Dharma, to share life with ancestors who are heirs of Buddha Dharma, and to receive a Buddhist robe that has been directly transmitted from person to person. It would be a pity not to do this. Lay bodhisattvas wear kashayas, wear rakusus. Lay men and women of the past and present have received a Buddhist robe along with Buddhist precepts. So that was Dogen. The little I know of quantum mechanics suggests that our world, our universe, is the result of limitation. From each less than millionth or billionth of a second, endless possibilities collapse into the one line we call reality, which emerges only as all other options collapse. Or perhaps these countless alternative options branch off and actualize in and as other dimensions. Regardless, our one line of reality is the result of the failure of all other lines of possibility. In commenting on another koan, Wu Men says, the failure is wonderful indeed. An ancient Irish tale of the warrior, poet, and sage Finn, Fionn sometimes pronounced, we tended outside Ireland to pronounce it as Finn, recounts how, when camped with his men, he once asked them, "Men, what is the most beautiful music in the world?" Many answers were given: the singing of the lark, the striking of a sword against a shield, the baying of the hounds chasing a stag, the laughter of a child, the sigh of a woman whose heart you've moved with love. And to each, Fionn only responded, "Beautiful music, but not the most beautiful music in the world." Finally, when all had answered and no adequate response been accepted, his men demanded, "Chieftain, tell us, what is the most beautiful music in the world?" And Finn answered, "The music of what happens." This can be the foundation of an excellent koan. When Wu Men asks, "The world is vast and wide. Why do you put on your 7-piece robe at the sound of the bell?" What do you answer? Why, for that matter, is the sky blue? Why does your dog bark? Why, when hungry, do you eat? Why must we all age and die? You see, this why goes a long way. Wu Men's commentary. All you Zen students training in the way, it is urgent that you avoid pursuing sounds and clinging to forms. You may realize the way on hearing a sound, or understand the mind on seeing a form. That's natural. But don't you know that true Zen students can ride sounds and enclose forms? They see everything clearly, moment by moment, and handle each and everything deftly, action after action. But even so, tell me, does the sound come to the ear, or does the ear go to the sound? Even if sound and silence are both forgotten, what do you say at such a point? If you listen with your ear, you cannot realize it. If you hear with your eye, then you are intimate at last. Intimacy, of course, being intimate means to realize. It's the same as enlightenment. This is what, the word means the same. You are intimate at last. Now, this sounds intriguing. If you listen with the ear, you cannot realize it. If you hear with the eye, you're intimate at last. There's that word again, intimate. Why? What makes it so significant? What is listening with the eye? Is Womyn talking about synesthesia, in which one sense is perceived by another? So some people might see sound or be entranced by the music of colors and so on, in a trippy amalgam of senses. But that's not the point. What is Womyn's point? Well, this commentary says much. In fact, many Zen teachers don't appreciate it, finding it rather excessive. Yet, something central and deeply important is lodged at the core of it. A very good question. Can you see what this is? And can you meet its challenge? I'm going to take a minute here and open up Aiken Roshi's commentaries on the Gateless Barrier. Translated and with a commentary by Robert Aitken. And we will look at page 111 in this book. If you have a copy of it at home, you can take a look yourself later. But let me read a little to you. Let's see. Womyn cautions, if you listen with your ear, it is hard to understand. If you hear with your eye, you are intimate at last. Probably Womyn is recalling the enlightenment of Tungshan Liangche. Tungshan's teacher, Yunyan Ungan, had given him the koan, the discourse of the non-sentient. When this became clear, he exclaimed, how truly wonderful, how truly wonderful. The discourse of the non-sentient is marvelous. If you listen with your ear, you can't discern it. When you hear with your eye, you have it at last. To hear with the eye is the intimacy of true freedom. This is the freedom of the stone woman who gives birth, of the wooden horse that whinnies, of the golden fox chasing the silver dog. That's the sun and moon, the golden fox and the silver dog. The Buddha Shakyamuni, solitary and alone, entered into vast universes of endless dimensions. But when he was struck with the thought of his 5 companions, it was like the sound of a great temple bell, and he freely arose and walked the dusty roads of India for the rest of his life, turning the wheel of the Dharma. The why becomes clear at last. The why becomes clear at last. Why? 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 When the bell rings, do you put on your 7-piece robe? Why? When the phone rings, do you answer? Why? When you're tired, do you sleep? Why? When you're sad, do you cry? Why? When you're happy, do you laugh? Here is Womyn's verse, which offers a key marker for the way of Zen. With realization, with intimacy, all things are one family. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? With intimacy, all things are one family. The stone, the tree, the angry person, the cloud, the star, my body, my thoughts. Without realization, all things are separate and different. That's clear too, isn't it? We know that realm very well. Without realization, all things are separate and different. Without realization, all things are one family. Whoa, wait. How's that work? With realization, all things are separate and different. Whoa, that's a change, isn't it? With realization, all things are separate and different. With realization, all things are one family. Without realization, all things are separate and different. You must present the truth of this personally, which of course means intimately. How? The second sentence is not just a reversal of the first, but offers tremendous depth. Without realization, all things are one family. With realization, that is, with intimacy, all things are separate and different. How can this be? What sense does this make? And yet, how true it is. How true it is. If you can respond to all of Wumen's checking questions, he says you might find that you enjoy this ordinary present life just as it is, it itself having transformed for you into what he elsewhere calls the dragon samadhi. In short, into the ultimate. By the way, we have several dragons in the Zendo here. Up on the altar is a dragon that was given to me by Zensen Gifford, which he received, it might even have been from Nakagawa Roshi when he was in Japan. It was a really very encouraging gift when I opened the Zendo. Further back were the pictures of our teachers, Harada Roshi, Asatani Roshi, Kapla Roshi, Aiken Roshi, and Dainin Roshi are. There's a dragon that was given to me at my transmission, Dharma transmission ceremony by Taigen Henderson Roshi of the Toronto Zen Center. Yeah. What, Rose?
Yeah, given by the Toronto Zen Center.
Yeah, it was given by Taigen and Bonnie, I think, his wife, now her Metta, as she's ordained as well, and the people of the Toronto Zen Center. Okay, let me not leave them out. And then over the shrine room or kanon room at the back is a carved little flat plaque of a wooden dragon that came from Japan, which we picked up along the way. So you go in there and you enter under the sign of the dragon. It sounds like a Bruce Lee movie. In any case, what is this dragon samadhi, this ultimate? Look, every ordinary fish, each little carp leaping and trying and falling back again and again, when they finally leap all the way and get to the top of the endless flow of endlessly falling water, there at the top of the falls, that little carp suddenly discovers that it is, and has always been, not some poor little fish, not at all, but a great roaring dragon. Ring, ring, ring. Do you hear it? Okay. Then what do you do? To switch gears and give this all a twist, John Donne, one of the essential 17th century English metaphysical poets, wrote, "Never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." Why? We'll stop the Teisho here. And because we have a few minutes, is that correct, Rose?
Quite a few.
Quite a few minutes. I'd like to read to you something that I found so terribly encouraging. It's a book I've read, maybe this is the fourth time through, Arctic Dreams by Barry Lopez, Imagination and Desire in a Northern Landscape. If you've never read Arctic Dreams by Barry Lopez, or his Of Wolves and Men, or his ostensibly a children's book, but it's really something quite profound, Crow and Weasel, and some of his other works, Crossing Barren Ground, Giving Birth to Thunder, Sleeping with His Daughter, Coyote Builds North America. He was a wonderful American writer who recently sadly died, a very important writer, and a wonderful person. He spent a lot of time with traditional peoples and a lot of time out in the wilderness. So I'm going to read you the very, very end of Arctic Dreams. I stand with my feet squared on the stones at the edge of the ice and looked north into Bering Strait. To the east was America, the Seward Peninsula. To the west, the Magadan region of Siberia, the Chukchi Peninsula. On each were the burial grounds of archaic Bering Sea culture people, the richest of all the prehistoric Arctic cultures. In the summer of 1976, a Russian group led by M.A. Chlenov discovered a 500-year-old monument on the north shore of Yurugran Island on the Sinavian Strait off the southeast Chukchi coast. The complex consists of a series of bowhead whale skulls and jawbones set up in a line on the beach that is about 2,500 feet long. The monument is associated with several stone and earth structures and also with meat pits. Many of the skulls are still standing up vertically in the ground in a strict geometric pattern. Chlenov and his colleagues regard the area as a sacred precinct and link it to the ceremonial lives of a select group of highly skilled whale hunters whose culture was continuous from Cape Zenev in the north to Providence Bay and included St. Lawrence Island, where the cultural phase has been called Punik. Perhaps the Punik hunters at Whalebone Alley, as it is known, lived, some of them, exemplary lives. Perhaps they knew exactly what words to say to the whale, so they would not go off in dismay or feel the weight of its death. I remember the faces of the walrus we killed and do not know what words to say to them. This was at the end of he was with Eskimo peoples in this area who he was living with at the time. And they were walrus hunters, and he went with them on such a hunt, both in its horror and its beauty. He was quite moved. In any case, no culture has yet solved the dilemma each has faced with the growth of a conscious mind, how to live a moral and compassionate existence when one is fully aware of the blood, the horror inherent in all life, when one finds darkness not only in one's own culture, but within oneself. If there is a stage at which an individual life becomes truly adult, it must be when one grasps the irony in its unfolding and accepts responsibility for a life lived in the midst of such paradox. One must live in the middle of contradiction, because if all contradiction were eliminated at once, life would collapse. There are simply no answers to some of the great pressing questions. You continue to live them out, making your life a worthy expression of leaning into the light. I stood for a long time at the tip of St. Lawrence Island regarding the ice, its distant dark leads of water. In the twilight and wind and the damp cold, memories of the day were like an aura around me, unresolved, a continuous perplexity pierced here and there by sharp rays of light, other memories, coherence. I thought of the layers of it, the dying walrus moving through the chill green water, through the individual minds of the hunters, the mind of an observer, of the very idea of the walrus living on even as I ate its flesh, lines in books about the walrus hide lines tied to harpoons, dragging walrus skin boats over the sea, the curve and weight of a tusk in my mind, from a head as dense with bone as a boulder. Walrus meat stew is waiting back at the house, hot now, while I stand in the cold, thickening wind. At the foot of Sevokuk, Lapland longspurs build their nests in the walrus's abandoned crania. Glaucous gulls fly over. In the shore leader phalaropes with their twig-like legs. In the distance I can see flocks of old squaw against the sky and a few cormorants. A patch of shadow that could be several thousand crested auklets, too far away to know. Out there are whales. I have seen 6 or 8 gray whales as I walked this evening, and the ice, pale as the dove-colored sky. The wind raises the surface of the water. Wake of a seal in the shore lead, gone now. I bowed to what knows no deliberating legislature or parliament, no religion, no competing theories of economics, an expression of allegiance with the mystery of life. I looked out over the Bering Sea and brought my hands folded to the breast of my parka and bowed from the waist deeply toward the north, that great strait filled with life, the ice and the water. I held the bow to the pale sulfur sky at the northern rim of the earth. I held the bow until my back ached and my mind was emptied of its categories and designs, its plans and speculations. I bowed before the simple evidence of the moment in my life in a tangible place on the earth that was beautiful. When I stood, I thought I glimpsed my own desire. The landscape and the animals were like something found at the edge of a dream. The edges of the real landscape became one with the edges of something I had dreamed. But what I had dreamed was only a pattern, some beautiful pattern of light. The continuous work of the imagination, I thought, to bring what is actual together with what is dreamed, is an expression of human evolution. The conscious desire is to achieve a state, even momentarily, that like light is unbounded, nurturing, suffused with wisdom and creation, a state in which one has absorbed that very darkness, which before was the perpetual sign of defeat. Whatever world that is, it lies far ahead, but its outline, its adumbration is clear in the landscape, and upon this one can actually hope we will find our way. I bowed again, deeply toward the north, and turned south to retrace my steps over the dark cobbles to the home where I was staying. I was full of appreciation for all that I had seen. I was filled with appreciation, full of appreciation for all that I had seen. Welcome to the year 2023. May we all be filled with appreciation for all the things we have seen, some difficult, some painful, some disturbing, and some truly wonderful. And how grateful I am, and we should all be, we all are, I think, for having found a practice that puts us in touch with this deepest aspiration of being a human being, to realize even momentarily a condition suffused with warmth, creation, light, wisdom, and compassion. This is our own nature, and I'm so glad we can be doing this together. I will turn this around, and we will do our great vows for all, and then resume, have kinhin, and then resume our zazen. And I will end the recording as well.